Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be doing the Judge a Book by its cover book tag. So I was tagged for this book tag by Yolene over at Yolene Reads. If you have not checked out Yolene's channel, I will definitely put a link up here. She is just such a lovely person and has fantastic fantasy book reviews and recommendations. So if you are a fantasy reader, I really hope that you will go over there and check out her channel. When she tagged me, I was actually really excited about it because this is the first book tag that I have been directly tagged by another booktuber. So since this is the fantasy edition of this book tag, I feel like I have to give kind of a disclaimer. I don't actually have a huge well of fantasy books to choose from for this tag. But yeah, this is all fantasy and I'm going to try to not repeat things, although many of these covers, they could go into any of these categories. So let me show you some book covers. The first question in this book tag is, break the ice, show a few of your personal favorite fantasy book covers. One of the first covers that comes to mind that I really like is The Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. I love this book cover so much for many reasons. I really love this color palette. It has this sort of muted color palette. The color palette along with the style of the artwork on here are really sort of reminiscent of old Japanese woodblock paintings. This book cover really kind of captures the feeling of the book. I love the typography on the front of this. I'm a big fan of typography. I'm a designer, and that's pretty common. Like for designers, we tend to have a thing for typography. I have some pretty strong opinions about the typography on books. So the way that the type on the front looks on here, it just works really perfectly for me. Another book cover that I really love is An Unkindness of Magicians. It's pretty simple, really modern looking, and it has all of these vines kind of weaving in and out of the letters. I love whenever the graphics kind of work together and sort of the way that they're like married together on this cover. I think it's really cool. It's very effective. Like the first time I saw this cover, I was really intrigued by it. So yeah, this is another one of my favorites. Another cover that I really like is the cover for Down Among the Sticks and Bones. The story feels pretty it's kind of dark and it feels a little desolate, and I think that this cover really captures that well. The little trunk here has, it's just really eye-catching and really kind of enchanting. I like the way the type just sort of spirals down the page like that. This is probably, of all the covers in the series, this is probably my favorite one. The next question in the book tag is, what is the absolute best cover that you own? So that is such an incredibly difficult question to answer. I don't know if I could pick one cover that I think is like the best cover that I own, but what I can share with you right now is what currently my favorite book cover that I own. I haven't owned this for very long, so it's shiny and new for me, but a book cover that I'm just in love with right now is this one. This is Amber Green by Jeff Vandermeer. I love this book cover for so many reasons. One of the main reasons that I love this cover so much is because one of my favorite design elements is scale. Having this like giant A filling up the whole cover, I think is like such a cool and daring element to have in a design like this. Also, I love the detail in all of these little mushrooms. I love this beautiful rainbow gradient. And I love this little snail right here, which you don't even really notice until you give it a good hard look. It is my favorite type of book, which is what a lot of booktubers will call a floppy paperback. And really what that generally is a trade paperback. I hope one day to build my empire full of paperbacks that are all trade paperbacks. That is my little dream as a bookworm. So this book fits into that dream very nicely and it's beautiful. So yeah, this is my current favorite cover. The next question is, what is the absolute worst book cover that you own? That is easy. As far as fantasy book covers go, this is I think the worst book cover that I own. I dislike this cover enough. This will be unhauled very soon. I think that the designer of this cover made a lot of really poor decisions. The main things that I dislike about this cover are, first of all, this color. Yellow is not a color that I would associate with magic in any way. Also, it has an enormous face, which I don't like faces, specifically like realistic, like photographed faces on book covers. I'm sure many of you will agree with that. What the photograph is, if there was no type on here and I was just looking at the picture, the graphic on here, I wouldn't think witches, I would think Summer of Love. That looks very like hippie. It has nothing to do with the story, like a girl with the daisy tucked behind her ear. Some things could have been done to make the type on here sort of stand out a little bit better. No. Like, sorry if this is your favorite book cover ever, but it doesn't work for me. Next question. What is the coolest cover you have that features a weapon? The coolest fantasy covers that I have that feature a weapon on the front are these two Discworld books. They are from the Death sub-series. They have the main character, Death, the Grim Reaper, on the front, and he is holding a scythe, and it is kind of that sort of silver leaf. I really like that. I love the colors of these books. I think that, this one has to do with Death becoming a farmer, so it has like the wheat and stuff around him, and I think that's really cool. In this one, he takes on an apprentice, Mort, and he takes him on at night, and a lot happens in this book at night, so I really like that it's like a blue cover. I think these are cool because he's holding a scythe. The next prompt is to show the most unique cover that you have. I think all the book covers that I have are like unique in their own way, but taking that question very literally, I think that some unique fantasy book covers that I own are the UK editions of these Brandon Sanderson novels. And I know they aren't like rare or anything like that, like lots of people have these, but the reason that I find these to be so unique is that they are solid white, this is not common in fantasy, like high fantasy. You don't see this kind of book cover a lot. They usually have a bunch of different colors on them. I love how modern this is. High fantasy oftentimes has sort of a like feudal European feel to it. So the look of this, I think these almost have kind of an architectural quality to them, which you just don't see in fantasy book covers very often. So yeah, I think that these are really unique book covers. The next prompt is, do judge a book by its cover. What is a book that lived up to how good the cover was, or the cover perfectly captured the vibe of the book? One of them is Ninth House. This book it's such a dark and almost a little kind of disturbing. This cover just sort of screams, beware. I really like the choice of typography on this cover. It's this like serif font, and this book is set at an Ivy League university, and so I feel like serif fonts have kind of that, like a little bit almost older school. They feel kind of professional, much like an Unkindness of Magicians. I like the way the snake, its body just sort of like weaves in and out of the letters. I think that's really cool. This one definitely captures the spirit of the story. Another book that I feel like the cover really captures the story well is A House at the Bottom of a Lake. I actually just finished reading this book, so you need to keep an eye out. I will be giving my thoughts on this book very soon. This book, it's a little creepy. And I feel like, especially if you're someone who finds large bodies of water, deep water, to be a little creepy, it's a little ominous. I like the way that the type comes down the side of the book here, and the way that the A almost kind of mimics like the eaves of a house, and the way it gives you this sort of like sinking feeling, like as you read down the type, like you're kind of going down into the lake. I love the colors. This sort of all these shades of teal. I think that they are so beautiful. As I was reading this book, I would look back at the cover quite a bit to sort of keep me, keep me immersed. No pun intended. It really kept me drawn in and engaged with the story. So yeah, I think that this is a really good cover for this book. The next prompt is a book that I bought blind simply because the cover was captivating. This question is actually going to sort of hurt my heart a little bit to talk about. There is only one book cover that I ever bought completely blind because of the cover. Unfortunately, I don't have this book anymore, but what that book was the trade paper edition of The Golden Compass. It had just come out. I thought it was just the most beautiful cover that I had ever seen, so I bought that. I don't know why, but I got rid of it. I don't know why. I don't know why. Why did I get rid of it? So I was forced to replace it with these pieces of trash. I hate these covers. Everything about this is terrible in my opinion. But yeah, the trade paper edition of The Golden Compass, the only book that I've ever bought because of the cover, and I no longer own it. So yeah. That answer actually ties really nicely into the next prompt, which is an embarrassing book cover. Show a book that was great, but the cover is so cringe. Well, those Golden Compass, that series, those mass market paperbacks are absolutely atrocious. A few others, I don't like the covers for these Game of Thrones covers. I mean, this is like some pretty lazy design work in my opinion. This to me is just like, what do you think we should put on it? Well, I don't know. How about a sword? Let's just put a sword on it. Like, we could have done better. Like, come on. These are not great. I don't like the cover of The Giver. It's some old dude's face on the front. This came out in 1993, but still, there are some pretty great covers that came out in 93, so I don't feel like that's a very legitimate excuse. This is a fantastic book, but I don't want to see an old dude's face on the cover of a book, especially like a kid's book. Like no, that doesn't work. Another one I don't like is the sequel to The Rook, which is The Stiletto. No. The final prompt is to show any special editions or fancy books that you have that you want to show off. I already showed these, but these are some of my favorites right now. I also really, really love this cover. Hopefully it doesn't have too much of a glare on it. I got this at a book and paper show a few years ago. I absolutely love this. The artwork in this book is really beautiful. I think one thing that makes this particularly great, the dust jacket is beautiful, but whenever you take the dust jacket off, you get this gloriousness. I mean, just look at this. This is so beautiful. And I know we're just talking about covers, but I love the end papers of this book. I think that they are really, really special. I don't know. I love this. I think it's such a beautiful book. Some other special editions that I have that I'm pretty proud of are these Pantone editions of children's stories. I use the Pantone color matching system quite a bit, and I think it is super cool that they came out with these editions of these books. If you look at a Pantone swatch book, it's made up of these little strips. So I think it's really cool that that's what the spine looks like. I do have a few others, but these are the Pantone editions that I have that are fantasy. The only one that I'm not super fond of is this silver one. This is Through the Looking Glass and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I think that this should have actually been red. Tell me if you agree in the comments. You know what color the queen didn't paint the roses? Silver. But nonetheless, I think that these are really cool additions. I really like them, and I have them in my living room. I actually have some bookends that are rabbits that sit on either side of it, and I think that that's pretty cool. Like I really like to show these off. So I think that that is going to be it for me today. Yolene, thank you again for tagging me. This was really such a fun tag to do, so I'm really glad that you tagged me for this. I think right now I'm also going to tag a couple of people. I would like to tag Little Prairie Library to do this book tag, and also a musical bookworm. So if either of you would like to do this tag, I hope you will, and let me know if you do, please. I would love to see your book covers and any thoughts you have on those. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will like it and possibly subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.